circumstantial.
I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell politicians to give up the rooms. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth.
God, it's me. Can you hear my plea? Feeling like I'm lost in this world, can't you see? Demons creeping in, trying to take control of me. But I'm just trying to find the light, trying to break free. I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. But why you keep forgetting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feeling like I'm on a leash. Can't find no peace, can't find no peace. Living in hell, can't you hear my plea? I'm suffocating, can't you see? Why you let these false prophets roam free? While the well-run suffer, can't you see? I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Why you keep targeting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feel like I'm on a leash, can't find no peace.
Hardest battles, strongest soldiers, greatest burden, broadest shoulders, pushing up just like these boulders. This conflict like it's water, so this mercy, take my chalice, seeking grace through all this malice. All of these salty motherfuckers to give out.
Politics and sinners, they all the same.
Got me stuck in this endless game. But I won't give up, won't play the role. Gotta do what's best
for my soul.
I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell these politicians to give up the room. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth. Living wild but truthfully free. God keep on watching over me. Take my pleas and keep the receipts. I just want all of humanity.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing? And welcome to the Urban Conservative. And I'm going to start this morning off with Villain's Crown featuring XD Wolfie, the Urban Conservative. I don't know why I sound so fucked up this morning. So with that being said, I'll be right back right after this.
This will be your greatest challenge. Try to defeat me.
You know why? You lack the heart to chase the life you dream. You need a villain to make yourself seem clean. Pointing fingers at me like I'm the cause of your shame. But tell me, does that make you righteous? Nah, you just playing a game. You mastered the mask, the art of deceit. But me, I stand naked in the truth. No retreat. BLM snapping flicks. Hope they catch my essence, not the flaws. Life's price tag drops while I'm stacking chips, breaking laws.
This will be your greatest challenge.
Voices buzzing like static, I absorb the feedback. They throw shade, but I reflect it right back. Believe that. Pastor's pulpit empty, the body count rise. 16 souls lost, another mother's cry. Death on the rise. There's a battle raging. No one's truly secure. Gotta hustle till you crumble. Our life's allure. Eyes on me, they plotting to steal my crown. I tell them hungry wolves, my protection's never down. What I do, step out grind, try to make it right. They always need a scapegoat, someone to blame at night. Now I'm legit, a citizen paying his dues, but they still whisper my name like it's old. I never broke bread with them, never shared a meal. There's envies and poison, born from the loneliness they feel. And when you cut ties, suddenly you're fake.
This will be your greatest challenge. Try to defeat me.
But I'm just dodging the snakes for my own sake. Now I ain't playing with them, no games in this maze. Give the youth the whole truth, not a piece of my praise. Tight circles, only real ones survive. And new Gotti's on the rise, staying alive in this hive. There's a battle raging, no one's truly secure. Gotta hustle till you crumble, our life's allure. Eyes on me, they plotting to steal my crown. I tell them, hungry wolves, my protection. protections never down.
This will be your greatest challenge. This will be your greatest challenge. Try to defeat me.
Break it down for this town, you were bound to sound like king, so hold that crown on his brow like no foul can come up to his majesty. Now listen now, how loud this crowd gets. You right, stand in the shadow of his lord, so survive this ordeal. Let you perpetuate on this scene, let it clean.
This will be your greatest challenge. This will be your greatest challenge. Try to defeat me.
Good morning, good
Sean
morning.
Cole.
Damn, whoops. Too much bullshit this morning. Good morning. And welcome back to the Urban Conservative. This morning I want to get into, I really feel like there's some very valuable things that we could talk about. And I want to get into amendments, accountability, and action, because there's no shortcuts on winning. And especially there's no shortcuts to winning. But if we're not educated and we don't know how to fight it, we don't know how to achieve it. So if people aren't educated, if they're not liberated, how are we supposed to know better? So until we can know better, I don't expect people to do better. But I want to be a part of knowing and doing better. You know what I'm saying? So that's why a lot of the times I'm at the forefront and not, behind kissing ass and in my eyes taking names later. But I want to get into, before Biden left office, he pardoned Marcus Garvey. A lot of it had to do with, harms of the past. And I want to get into that because I think a lot of people don't know Marcus Garvey's story and what the Pan-African movement and UNIA and Malcolm X, because there was people before Malcolm, there was people before Martin. And our government has always demonized, has always made people that look like us, that look like me, into villains, into demons. And we never really got the real raw truths. And I want to get into that. And so here is Marcus Garvey.
I'm Amy Goodman.
Well, whatever. Amy
Last
Goodman.
week, President Biden made history by issuing more pardons and commutations than any president before him. Among the thousands of pardons was one that came after more than a century. Black nationalist leader Marcus Garvey received a posthumous pardon for a mail fraud conviction in 1923. Advocates and congressional leaders had pushed for Garvey's pardon for years, with supporters arguing Garvey's conviction was politically motivated and an effort to silence the Pan-African leader who spoke of racial pride. This is audio of Marcus Garvey speaking in Harlem in 1924.
The Negro is a man. We represent a new Negro. His back is not yet against the wall. We do not want his back against the wall because that would be a peculiar and desperate position. We do not want him there. It is because of this that we are asking for fair compromise. Where the Belgians have control of the Belgian Congo, which they cannot use, they have not the resources to develop nor the intelligence. The French have more territory than they can develop. There are certain parts of Africa in which they cannot live at all. So it is for you to come together and give us a United States of Africa. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are not going to be a race without a country. God never intended it, and we are not going to abuse God's confidence in us as men. We are men, human beings, capable of the same acts as any other race, possessing under fair circumstances the same intelligence as any other race. Now Africa's been sleeping, not dead, only sleeping. Today Africa's walking around not only on our feet, but on our brains. You can enslave what was done for 300 years, the bodies of men. You can shackle the hands of men. You can shackle the feet of men. You can imprison the bodies of men, but you cannot shackle or imprison the minds of men.
Born in Jamaica in 1887, Marcus Garvey established the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League in 1914. In 1917, he established the headquarters of the UNIA in Harlem. Black self-reliance was central to his ideology, and he established the Black Star Line, a shipping company which raised over $600,000 before collapsing in 1922. In 1923, U.S. authorities prosecuted and convicted Garvey for mail fraud in connection with the Black Star Line. He served a 2-year sentence, was then deported to Jamaica. He died in 1940 in England. For more, we go to human rights lawyer and Howard University's School of Law professor Justin Hansford. He's executive director of the Thurgood Marshall Civil Rights Center, the first American to be nominated and elected to the United Nations Permanent Forum for People of African Descent. Professor Hansford is the author of Jailing a Rainbow, The Unjust Trial and Conviction of Marcus Garvey. So, Professor Hansford, you and Howard University were instrumental in achieving this pardon in the last hours of President Biden's tenure. Tell us the story of Marcus Garvey.
Yes, good morning, Amy. This is a pleasure this morning to talk about one of my personal heroes. You know, Marcus Garvey, as you described, was one of the first anti-colonial global black leaders. He created an organization of over 6 million people. And what he did was do more than simply provide inspiration, but he also provided a blueprint for Pan-Africanism, the creation of the red, black, and green flag. You know, his words, for example, we will emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, would later be a foundation for the lyrics of reggae music, which were quoted by Bob Marley, and images and ideas sent across the globe. And, you know, the parents of Malcolm X were devout followers of Garvey, and that served as an inspiration for Malcolm X's activism and Dr. Martin Luther King, so that the echoes of his work reverberate unto today throughout the Black freedom struggle. And this particular legacy is one that not enough people know about. And one of the wonderful things about obtaining this pardon is to have this conversation this morning, to have the conversation which has taken place over the past week, to be able to, in this time when Black history is being suppressed all across the country, in schools across the country, we have an opportunity now to talk about these ideas around entrepreneurship and you know, self-confidence and a global lens on activism and liberation, which is, especially in this time where we're facing so many threats with our social justice struggles being pushed into a corner. As you just heard Marcus Garvey say, we do not intend to stay in that corner. We intend to fight back. And he's a wonderful example and inspiration of what that fight back must look like going forward. So, Professor Hansford, can you be specific on his life? Talk about the Black Star Line, talk about what got him in legal trouble and the political underpinnings of that, what it meant for him to go to jail, and why he ended up being deported. Yes, well, we have to think back to 1920, 1921. The context 100 years ago is we're in the midst of Jim Crow. We're having hundreds of lynchings taking place around the country. Black people are one generation removed from enslavement. And here comes Marcus Garvey with the idea to create a mode of travel and commerce that would connect the Black diaspora in the Caribbean and on the African continent. Remember, at that time, every country in Africa was under colonial rule except Ethiopia. So here's this concept. Many people would use the term back to Africa, but what was meant by his rhetoric was that he wanted to allow people to return back to their spiritual roots on the continent. And in addition to that, think about the concept of independent economic commerce and being able to do for yourself. And so what took place was he created the Black Star Line, which energized the world. And it's hard to overstate, how important this was and how inspirational this was. Young, kids on the continent of Africa would read his speeches in his newspapers and memorize the words and, run back to the rest of their community and repeat the words that they had memorized. I mean, this electrified a people around the world that were in the midst of oppression. And at the same time, this was a shipping company created to allow people to trade goods and travel. And at this time, we know that in the early 1920s, we're on the cusp of the Great Depression. It was after World War I, so there were a lot of ships available for this type of activity. And a number of factors made it very difficult to thrive economically with the shipping company as the Great Depression sparked off. But what happened was J. Edgar Hoover, and we know that name as later on in his career as the head of the FBI, he would go on to create COINTELPRO and to harass Dr. Martin Luther King and the Black Panther Party. But he really got his start harassing Marcus Garvey, who we feared would be a quote-unquote Black Moses. And so he led an investigation where he targeted Garvey. The first Black FBI agent named James Wormley Jones was assigned to infiltrate Garvey's Black Star Line. And ultimately, they brought a lawsuit arguing that the entire Black Star Line enterprise and project was just a fraud. And to use the mails to advertise for the Black Star Line was using the mails to defraud. And so they brought that case before an all-white jury in 1923 and convicted Garvey and ultimately imprisoned and deported him. And he would never return to the United States after that conviction. And I just wanted to say what made that conviction so terrible, it wasn't simply a random charge. What they did is they tried to undercut his life's work and say the very thing that inspired millions of people around the world was actually a fake and a fraud.
Wow.
And so it spoke to the heart of his activism and his vision and really tried to delegitimize his life's work. That's what made it so important to overturn that.
In July of 1917, the city of East St. Louis, Illinois, became the scene of one of the bloodiest race riots of the 20th century. Mobs of whites set fire to the homes of Black residents, beat, shot, and lynched men, women, and children. Marcus Garvey spoke out against the violence in an emergency meeting in Harlem, marking the expansion of his movement to include American race relations. This is a clip from Stanley Nelson's PBS American Experience documentary, Marcus Garvey, Look for Me in the Whirlwind. It's an actor reading Garvey's speech.
Right. The whole thing, my friends, is a bloody farce. That the police and soldiers did nothing to stem the murder thirst of the mob is conclusive proof of conspiracy on the part of the civil authorities to condone the acts of the white mob against Negroes. White people are taking advantage of black men today because black men all over the world are disunited.
So that was a reading of Marcus Garvey. Explain the context, Professor Hansford.
Yes, well, what we're talking about in 1923 is shortly after the Red Summer of 1919. We're seeing lynchings happening all across the country, and also they're being framed as race riots. And in this context, there's a debate taking place as to how we should respond in our community. And Garvey and W.B. Du Bois and others were hotly debating this topic. Right. Garvey's position was that we must stand up aggressively and be willing to assert ourselves and be willing to have a global vision, bring people together from around the world to fight back. It's very similar to, I have to say, an inspiration to what we're facing right now, where we're in the very dark moment politically, and we have to think amongst ourselves, how are we going to respond? Are we going to respond with confidence? Are we going to respond with a sense of...
Oh, shit.
Courageous in terms of what Marcus Garvey advocated for. And, that's one of the reasons that he was seen as a threat. And that's why he was targeted by the United States government because of his approach and his way of inspiring people to respond and stand up for themselves and really assert their dignity and come up with effective strategies that often demanded that we took an economic-based approach to self-empowerment.
The posthumous pardon for Marcus Garvey is and the same pardon as Ravi Ragbir, the immigrant rights leader. And I encourage people to go to democracynow.org to see our interview with Ravi after he, too, was pardoned. That came out on Sunday. But finally, Professor Hansford, I wanted to ask you about President Trump expanding his crackdown on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, revoking a 60-year-old executive order signed by then-President LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, banning hiring discrimination, and talk about overall what has happened with this. DEI workers across the federal government have been suspended as of Wednesday. I mean, it is astounding what's going on. And in the next days, anyone in the federal government is encouraged to rat out others who might be working on disguised DEI issues. Have we seen anything like this before? And what's the significance of it?
Well, you'd have to go back to these periods in history we're talking about to see similar efforts.
Niggas don't know.
From the federal government. And, I would say that the important thing for us to understand right now is that the constitutional grounds for providing some way of creating inclusion in these institutions has not suddenly disappeared on the grounds of these executive orders.
Right.
There's a big difference between the Supreme Court and the presidency. And so there's still a pathway forward. And this is connected to the pardon of Marcus Garvey, interestingly, because Garvey's pardon is an example of the process of seeking to repair harms of the past. Many people talk about the push for reparations. And many of these institutions, although the grounds for diversity based on simply an effort to create more inclusive communities for effectiveness purposes may be under challenge. It is still constitutional to create diversity on the grounds of repairing for past harm under the Supreme Court's jurisprudence. So there is a need for us to look back. This is not just symbolic. This is not just academic. The more of our institutions need to look back and acknowledge the harms of the past, because then they can institute these programs as a way to provide remedies for the harms that they were culpable in the past. So these efforts, even though at the first glance, it would not seem that something like a posthumous pardon has particular resonance and relevance to our contemporary struggles. These are intimately connected processes, and we should take the message and use it for our fight going forward.
Justin Hansford, I want to thank you for being with us. Howard University School of Law professor, author of Jailing a Rainbow, The Unjust Trial and Conviction of Marcus Garvey.
Go out there and read that, man. Go out there. There's Democracy Now! They do a lot of good things. I really got into watching them in the last couple months, especially about Palestine and various other, little things. One thing that I want to get into is know your rights, right? But don't get it twisted. Because that does matter. Our rights in our past does matter. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. And they should, because if you don't understand the past, you don't understand the present, and you don't understand what we're doing going forward. And that's wild to me. That's wild to me. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy to me, right? So we got a comment here. It says people like A. Philip Randolph and W.E. Du Bois was talking to the government and telling all about Garvey's business, the same way that FBA, BLM, and ADOS. I definitely agree with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they came into the government and made it where policies of everybody's worried about the FBI, but what about the black churches? Because they literally wrote faith-based initiatives to be able to fuck us up, and nobody says nothing. You know, the same thing with nonprofits. We have more leaders in love with money than they do with change, because change isn't going to bring them niggas money. That's one thing that I will get from, you know, what Don, when it comes to Don Allen. You know, I disagree with him on some things, because there's a lot I want this motherfucker to talk about, but he doesn't, because I understand it. If he does, it's gonna fuck up his money. I get it. You know what I'm saying? He's not connected to, you know, feeding our future. He's not connected to no dirty shit, but he knows a lot of shit. He knows. You know what I'm saying? And it blows me away, is because we have people in our community that know this, but yet because they're comfortable and content of not being fucked with. You know, that's the one thing, is that what people don't even understand is that these connections reach further and long places than where we do, right? And that's why you see these things like Jerry McAfee or Shiloh Temple, because Shiloh was brought up last night. Look at all the money they've gotten in the last couple years. And why does North Minneapolis look the way that it looks? Because nobody wants to talk about that we're being gentrified. Nobody wants to talk about that. You know, they do certain things, or it's not about community. It's about how much profits can we make, because everybody's worried about the 2025 and DEI and, you know, all of these things. But go back into history. Go back in the past and learn. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. Like, hey, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. So I need to do something different about it. So I want to get into is that the people of Denver woke up to a safer city, says the DA agent on FBI on a Colorado raid. You know, everybody knows there's been a lot of raids going on lately. The last couple of days, you know, ICE has been out. ICE, baby. You know what I'm saying? But the niggas out here, and I don't really know. You know, O'Hara has made some comments. You know, sanctuary policies and state laws matter. How much, you know, our law enforcement, our local police and sheriffs can actually help. You know what I'm saying? But I know one thing is that we need to take a deeper look into the 14th Amendment and see who this birthright citizenship was for. And see, I hear people call about illegals and that we're on stolen land. It's stolen to a degree, because nobody wants to talk about how some of this shit was paid for. They were just fucked over. You know, that's the crazy thing, because what about Uncle Ben's rice? Uncle Jemima? Everybody gets mad. We were a lot of the niggas out here protesting. They got mad about black products that they felt like were racist. Weren't even around when this shit came up. So they had an agreement. Why don't we protest and be like, hey, because all you're doing is getting rid of a history, because they earned it. They earned it. Even though we can't understand what they went through to get it to where it is today, or what it is today. And maybe they did get screwed over. Uncle Ben probably didn't get nowhere near what it was worth. Same thing with Aunt Jemima. But it was crazy when you go to the grocery store now, you don't see no woman in the syrup. You got to get some old janky ass shit. It don't taste the same. Like, and we get mad because we feel like we get screwed over, or we feel like it's racist because what we're programmed. I'm gonna call it that, programmed. We're not free thinkers, because the minute somebody said, this is the one crazy thing I've seen in the last couple of days. You know, I've seen ICE was in, you know, Red Wing, Minnesota. And then ICE has been all over Minneapolis. Yes, there has been ICE raids. I'm not gonna lie. If you look at the jail rosters in Candioi County and Freeborn and Sherburne, there is people that have been arrested and have been detained for ICE. That's no lie. You look at the jail rosters. That's no lie. Ask any of these jail administrators, right? How many ICE inmates do they have? Ask them. Because I go through their roster and look. It's a call. Reach out and touch a brother. Because everybody thinks that this shit isn't happening, but it is. And are we going to take any of this shit serious when it hits our front door? Because first of all, there's going to be a lot of jobs. There's going to be a lot of job openings. You're going to have to replace those people. That's what I'm saying. That like people don't understand that. Like even with Goodhue County, you have immigrants that your county takes care of. When I go to Zumbrota or Cannon Falls, and I go to the gas stations or the grocery stores, and all I'm seeing is a majority of people that are not even speaking English, that don't even speak English. I know something, but yet they're housed. So who's paying for that motel? Nobody wants to talk about that. What about the hotel that's next to DFA, Dairy Farmers of America, and right across the street from what's the name of that place that Schwann's? It used to be Schwann's. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about that. And why? Why? Are we so afraid of the truth that we're content? That we're content? I don't get it. But here you go with the people of Denver.
Pretty incredible images over the weekend as we see nonstop action on immigration crackdowns across the country, a flood of ICE raids leading to more than 1,000 arrests and more than 500 ICE detainers. These are added to the list that we saw over the course of last week. Moments from now, I'll speak with DEA agent in Colorado who was involved in this early morning raid on what they said was a makeshift nightclub party that they pulled people out of, and that there were many members in there of the violent Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua. But first, let's go to our correspondent, Alexis McAdams, here in New York with the latest. Hi, Alexis.
Hi, Martha. Well, this is what Trump said on day one when he was campaigning. He was going to go after what they said is the worst first on the streets, arresting migrants who they say committed a wide range of crimes like drug trafficking, gun charges, and child sex crimes. And those raids are far from over.
I think the president's happy, but we're going to make him a lot happier. Yesterday was just day one, and these raids are going to go out throughout the country. We're not going to let up. We'll put our foot on the gas, and we're going to go.
This weekend, ICE raids from Chicago to Miami, arrests in Philly, and soon ICE says crackdowns right here in New York City. Texas had teams on the ground finding 3 rifles, 2 pistols, and more than 3,000 rounds of ammo. Sources telling me that a member of the Sinaloa drug cartel out of Mexico was carrying those weapons when he was arrested in El Paso, Texas. Just the other day, ICE agents also found a large bag of cocaine with more than 120 kilos of that drug packed right inside this bag. Investigators say a group of migrants were planning to traffic that right into our country. And out in Colorado, federal agents from the DEA raiding a party in the Denver area. This was part of an ongoing investigation into that Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua. The team says 50 migrants were arrested. ICE ran dozens of background checks, and they put them on this bus and took them away. This continues here as the DEA Rocky Mountain team says they busted this party so quickly, Martha, they still had some of those cervezas still left on camera and still left on ICE.
I saw that. Thank you very much, Alexis. So with that, we bring in Jonathan Pullen, who was at the helm of that Denver area raid. He is a special agent in charge of the DEA's Rocky Mountain Field Division, and he has led investigations targeting terrorism and drug trafficking. Thank you very much, Special Agent Pullen. It's good to have you with us. Give us a sense of how you tracked this makeshift party location down, what was happening in there, and who was apprehended, Agent.
Yeah, thank you, Martha, for having us. So we've been following TDA here in Denver for a number of months. When I first arrived here in Colorado 7 months ago as the new special agent in charge, saying the words TDA around the city of Denver was like saying a 4-letter word in church. No one wanted to talk about it. But then my agents finally and quickly realized that we had a TDA trafficker who moved around 12 kilos of fentanyl across the mountains coming into the city. So that really started us looking at these traffickers and what they were doing and who they were associated with. And then, so for the next several months, we've been able to identify more and more of them, link them to other states, link them to numerous other countries, follow them between these sort of makeshift nightclubs. And that's what you see in the images on the screen now. The culmination was a federal search warrant executed at one of those makeshift nightclubs where we found about 50 people inside on early Sunday morning.
Were there drugs and weapons in there?
Absolutely. So these are dangerous criminals. You've seen from those videos that came out of Aurora a few months ago, these guys are carrying pistols and AK-47. These are serious bad guys. So we showed up in force. There were pistols found inside several of them. We found cocaine. We found crack cocaine. And we also found a drug called DUC, also known as pink cocaine.
Damn.
So you've been on the job for 7 months. What's different now under this leadership than it was even a couple of months ago?
So this has been an ongoing investigation for DEA, but I can tell you what's different now, I think, is that there's a renewed focus on the most violent criminals in our cities and across the nation. And I think that's an important thing. You know, I'm a citizen of the Denver area too, and I want to wake up to a safer city. And I think that's what happened here. We took, over 40 people into custody. A lot of these people have criminal records. And so I think the people in the city of Denver woke up today to a safer city.
So, Mayor Johnston had been very outspoken, the mayor of Denver, about what would happen if there were raids and that the people of his city would protect immigrants who were living in the city from any kind of raids against them. And yet now he's saying, what happened here on camera that we're showing you, he just gave us a statement, didn't happen in Denver, but if it had, he would have been supportive. Do you see a change in the way that leadership in Denver and in Colorado is talking about all of this now?
Yeah, I think so. I think some of the politicians are walking some of those statements back. I mean, look, we're here to protect public safety, right? I mean, on this raid, we had DEA out there, as you can see. We had ATF, we had Homeland Security, we had ICE agents, as well as some local partners with us as well, too. So everyone wants a safer neighborhood to live in. So, people can say what they want about, cooperating or not cooperating with ICE, but listen, DEA is conducting drug investigations all across the United States. Sometimes those include illegal immigrants. And so we're going to use all the resources that the DEA has to remove these people from the country if they need to be.
Well, what do you think? I mean, we saw Tren de Aragua in many cases, roaming freely. They've been tracked in 18 states. I think we have a map, if we didn't show it already, of all the states that this group is in. So once they start seeing raids and crackdowns and arrests like we saw last night in your area, what do you think the impact is going to be on their aggressiveness in the U.S.?
Well, I think they're going to probably start to scatter a little bit. I mean, I think that's what we're going to see here. We certainly didn't arrest all of them in Colorado yesterday, but we took quite a few off the streets. But typically when these type of things happen, they move to other locations. So we're going to see them scatter. But I think what people need to know is that, gangs like this are a real threat to our public safety. And so are cartels like the Sinaloa and CJ&G cartel. They all sort of cooperate and work together. And these are violent people that we're going to really continue to work hard to get off the streets.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I'm just curious, when I look at this video, some of the people arrested are women that I see handcuffed. Are they members of Tren de Aragua as well that you arrested last night?
So, it's a very diverse group. I'm looking at a list here, Martha, and we had folks, most of them were from Venezuela, but we had El Salvador, Mexico, Honduras, Cuba, Romania, and Italy. So, these people are all connected to this gang in one way or the other because it was an invitation-only party, but they're all associated.
Yeah. Not necessarily a party motive. Most of us want to be invited to. And you guys were not invited, but thank you for showing up anyway. Special
Absolutely.
Agent Jonathan Pullen, always good to see you. Thank you so much. And thank you for the work you do. You put yourself.
That's crazy because, you know what I'm saying? There is a lot coming up. So I want to get into what was the 14th Amendment and what it says about birthright citizenship, right? So let's get into that real quick. And I found this little clip.
constitutional. It is the first hearing in a multi-state effort challenging the order. The president issued the executive order on his first day in office. His directive applies not only to the children of undocumented people, but also to children of a vast group of immigrants who are lawfully in the country. That includes visa holders who have lived here for years. Joining me on the morning show is Renata Castro, founder of USA for All, a Florida-based immigration law firm. Thanks for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with the fundamentals here. Birthright citizenship is rooted in the plain text and original meaning of the 14th Amendment, enshrined in well over a century of precedent and practice. The president is contesting the federal judge's order. Any doubt this is going to wind up before the Supreme Court?
I don't think this is going to wind up, but I do think the Supreme Court is going to exercise its legal muscle and show the president that in the executive branch, there are no explicit or implicit powers to amend the Constitution. And this executive order is a direct violation of what constitutes a proper legal path to amend the American Constitution.
The lawsuits that have been filed center on the harm the president's order will bring. What are the potential consequences to children and babies?
Well, the potential consequences are already being felt. We have already received reports of federal agencies, such as the U.S. Postal Service, refusing to issue or to file applications for passport issuance for children of undocumented aliens who are U.S. citizens as of this day. So the confusion about what is actually going to happen as a result of this executive order is not going to wait until the 30 days of implementation. It's happening now. Lack of access to care, issuance of Social Securities, passports, and even birth certificates are going to continue creating chaos for government agencies and private actors alike, as hospitals are going to have a hard time deciding what to do in the middle of this legal rigmarole.
So legal analysts say there are three main reasons that the high court justices should uphold birthright citizenship. The first is legal, which we covered in it being part of the Constitution. The other two, they say, are practical, and the third is the court's own power. So let's discuss the practicality of upholding birthright citizenship.
The precedent is on the side of the Supreme Court. When we look at the executive powers and what entails the executive power means in the issuance of executive orders, it does not grant anywhere in American law the ability for a president to directly amend or change the American Constitution. So we would need a majority vote on both houses of Congress, and this did not happen. Now, could this open a path for the House and the Senate to present an amendment to the Constitution which could be passed? Now, that's a different legal procedure, and I think that we would have that change if properly proposed for vote. But the way that it has been presented, the Supreme Court is warranted in vetting and denying the upholding of this executive order.
Let's go to something you alluded to when we started this, the court's own power. There are those who say it is time for the court to flex its muscle and remind the president who really calls the shots on matters of legal disputes. Renata, I know the conservative majority is aligned with the president on a lot of issues, but not necessarily on this one. Do you think the court will be eager to assert that it is the ultimate arbiter of the Constitution, using this issue to prove that?
I think that the Supreme Court will be impartial, and irrespective of where the judges sit on their political inclinations, the American structure is very clear. There is a separation of powers, and presidents do not have unbridled power to make amendments or changes to law as they please. So I think that the Supreme Court ought to show the president that we are a democratic nation which follows a separation of powers, and that is what makes us such a great nation to live in, not an arbitrary decision made by one individual based on their preferences. In a democracy, that's not how it works.
And let's talk about practicality here. Look at what's going on in Los Angeles. You've got the fires. And the fact of the matter is there are a lot of people who have been living here for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And a lot of the people who are being forcibly out of here do not have criminal records, are doing the work of people that, many who are living here wouldn't want to do. And these people are the ones who are going to clean up Los Angeles, who are going to help rebuild Los Angeles, but may very well be forced out.
When we look at what's going on in Los Angeles, we in Florida have already felt it. During the last hurricanes, when Governor DeSantis implemented some draconian laws that made being an undocumented alien in the state of Florida criminal act, cities like Naples and Fort Myers suffered greatly with the rebuilding of those cities because those are jobs mainly done by undocumented aliens. We're going to feel this pinch throughout the United States. And I have a feeling the state of Florida is going to be directly impacted as it has in the past because we rely heavily, our industries, construction.
See, that's the whole thing of it is, and if people like you're seeing a lot of craziness, and I shouldn't really call it craziness because it's honestly something that's needed to been happen for years. And I talked about this last year, right? On March 11th. And I talked about DEI and the struggle for Black liberation. And a lot of people don't understand. But I want to get into it a little bit, not much, just play a little bit, because I don't think, honestly, people don't, fully understand, when we talk about history and we talk about, but I want to talk about, so there was if people don't remember, last year, there was individuals that came up, we call them migrants. But we know migrating is going from one land to another, not from like overseas and over jungles and, all this little bullshit they be trying to tell us that that's what, a migrant is. But we understand the definition of migrating. And that's not what migrating is. But I want to get into this a little bit, and it is Real America's Voice. And this is last year. This is before Trump was president. This was before we had all this DEI failures and these bullshit ass policies and, things like that we thought were helping us, but they actually weren't. So this was last year before any of this even affected us. Video. So if you remember last week, I showed you a video from Real America's Voice from Lake Street in Minneapolis. He came here to cover Super Tuesday in Minneapolis, which was, everybody knows, Super Tuesday was the primary, and he came here to cover Trump and see how people were MAGA, and Republicans, and how the voting was actually going to go, so that people weren't, lied to. Well, while he was here, he saw a lot of migrants. Now, this weekend, he is currently in what country he is in, but he's by the border and he is with migrants. But I want people to notice certain things in this video, and then we'll talk about it. So let me play it real quick. It's about 4 minutes.
Joe Biden.
Yeah, no Trump?
No.
Joe Biden, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah, Joe Biden? They all love Joe Biden. They're coming. Don't let anyone lie to you guys. The reason they're coming is because of Joe Biden. The world got the invitation. Look at these. Look at these exposed roots. This is how many millions of people have come through here. Just feet of erosion. ¿Qué parte en Estados Unidos? ¿Qué parte? Chicago? 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 Texas. ¿Qué parte en Estados Unidos?
¿Qué parte vas de Estados Unidos? Yo voy a Chicago, papá.
Chicago?
Denver.
Denver, okay. Where are you going in America?
Chicago.
Chicago. Are you going to vote for Joe Biden?
Yes.
Yes.
Vote Joe Biden.
Okay, there you go, right here in the jungle. ¿Tú a dónde vas en Estados Unidos?
This nigga's weird.
Okay. Philadelphia?
Crazy.
Oklahoma? Okay. Illinois? Okay. Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Okay. They love Joe Biden. Okay.
Right.
Joe Biden?
Yes. Yes. Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. You all love Joe Biden. Are you going to vote for Joe Biden? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
They're all going to vote for Joe Biden. You did it, Joe. As Kamala would say, you did it, Joe. We did it, Joe. You sure did. You did all of this. All of this. You did it, Joe. This invasion belongs to you. Every bit of it. You and United Nations and El Otro Lado and Pueblos Sin Fronteras and Catholic Charities, OIM,
Office of New Americans,
UNHCR,
all that shit.
all of this belongs to you. The environmental disaster
All
and the
that
human
shit.
disaster.
Niggas
You
don't
did
know
it, Joe.
because nobody looks at the legislation or policies.
Look at this environmental.
And that's what's crazy.
disaster.
It's like they're literally making it where, you know, and I honestly, I'm going to get into it right now, but they made a video of people being, here's the thing of it is, I'm okay with the portion, right? Because here's the thing of it is, where were people when I was being abused, being violated, and our community was being violated by law enforcement? Niggas wasn't doing, motherfuckers wasn't doing nothing. So why should we now? You know what I'm saying? Where were people when we wanted help? Because we've been calling out. It didn't matter if it came to George Floyd. It doesn't matter if it came to Winston Smith, Bilal Aid. We have corruption. And nobody wanted to help us. But if it came to money, y'all motherfuckers would come down to Minneapolis and be fraudulent, be scamming shit. You know what I'm saying? So I honestly get it. To be honest, I don't care because it doesn't hurt me. I know I'm an American. I ain't got to run from these motherfuckers. I ain't got to run from listen here. I don't even run from police. So why the fuck am I going to run from ICE? You know what I'm saying? I don't honestly care because I know my rights. And I know that, first of all, I don't give a fuck what his vest says. If it says ICE, this nigga ain't looking for me. So, and I'm gonna keep it that way. But I want to get into literally how they're making this seem like they're made for TV raids as cities from Chicago to Newark resist immigrant crackdowns. So let's get into this real quick, and it's Juan Gonzalez.
Well, we're going to stay in Chicago. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, says it arrested more than 1,000 people after detaining another 1,000 on Sunday in raids that immigrant communities and their allies say violate the Constitution and are being carried out in retaliation against sanctuary cities. Newly sworn-in Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem is in New York City now on an ICE raid that was covered live, and agents have been told to be camera ready. She was live tweeting the raid.
Fucking wild.
Soon we'll go to Newark, where Mayor Ross Baraka denounced a warrantless ICE raid Thursday that detained a U.S. veteran and other U.S. citizens. But we begin today's show in Chicago, where ICE officially launched, quote, Enhanced Targeted Operations Sunday with the TV personality Dr. Phil joining Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, and streaming the immigration raids live by about 10 teams of about 10 federal agents each. Nearly half those arrested Sunday had no criminal record. ICE says collateral arrests will continue as it claims to target people who are dangerous. On Friday, school officials in Chicago refused to allow agents into an elementary school who were actually not ICE agents, but from the U.S. Secret Service. This comes as 4 Chicago-based immigrant rights groups have sued to stop the raids, and Chicago City Council voted this month not to lift limits on involvement in federal immigration enforcement actions. On Monday, the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee launched an investigation of Chicago and several other sanctuary cities. We go right now to Chicago, where we're joined by Dulce Guzman, Executive Director of Alianza America. She's also a recipient of DACA, that's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Dulce, thank you for joining us. Can you talk about what's happening in your city?
Yes, thank you for inviting me. In the city and surrounding suburbs, there is a lot of palpable fear and anxiety among families. As you just said, there was over 1,100 ICE arrests across the country, and we still don't know about how many of those were from Chicago. What we have heard from families is that many are choosing to stay home. Many are choosing to not send their kids to school. Several businesses are reporting that they're seeing less business people coming in. So there's a lot of fear and anxiety that is spreading targeting for the same reason that we know that ICE is not only targeting people with criminal backgrounds, but they're targeting people that have been here for many years who have not committed any crime, who are our neighbors.
And Dulce, even those that they claim are folks with criminal backgrounds, apparently many are actually minor infractions. There was a report of a man in Waukegan who was picked up by immigration authorities for deportation, who apparently had who'd been in the country for 20 years and had 2 DUIs, driving under the influence convictions in the past. What about these minor crimes being treated under federal law as aggravated felonies?
Yeah, I think that this administration is trying to make a point about public safety when we know that this is not about public safety. If this really was about public safety and legality, we would not have seen the 1,500 pardons of people that stormed the Capitol and caused violent crimes on police officers. I believe that this is a very high media strategy that's being used to elevate what this administration is trying to push, which is a white supremacist agenda.
She crazy.
And also, Illinois does not permit the detention of people who are subject to potential deportation. So where are the people that ICE is picking up in Chicago and the surrounding areas? Where are they being sent?
As of now, we don't know, but we suspect that they might be going to nearby states like Indiana, where Indiana does allow detention centers.
Damn.
Dulce, we want to go across the country from Chicago back here on the East Coast to Newark. Dulce Guzman is with Executive Director of Alianza Americas. In Newark, New Jersey, another sanctuary city, which is in a state where nearly 1 in 4 residents are foreign-born, nearly half of all children are part of immigrant families. 3 days after President Trump's inauguration, ICE agents raided a seafood depot in Newark without a warrant, taking 3 people into custody, including a U.S. military veteran. This is the Newark mayor, Ras Baraka, condemning the raids.
It's a slippery slope when we think it's okay to suspend the Constitution of the United States in order to make a political point or statement. And if we allow people to identify us or put us in categories of criminal or any other thing just by the way we look, then we're going back to a time that was very dangerous in this country, specifically for people that looked like me.
For more, we're joined by Amy Torres, Executive Director of the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. She was on the ground soon after the raid took place, and you're the largest immigrant group in New Jersey. Talk about what happened. Describe the scene for us in Ironbound, one of the most diverse areas of Newark.
Sure. I mean, I think it's important to understand what the Ironbound is. This has been an immigrant enclave and hub for ever, starting with the Portuguese whaling industry, something that is so archaic, it's like outside of our living memory, right? So this is not the sort of like new arrivals, the criminal gangs, all of the things that this administration says that they're targeting. The other thing is that, ICE has called what they're doing across the country targeted enforcement operations. They refuse to call the detention centers camps. They refuse to call deportations anything but expulsions. Now they're refusing to call raids anything but raids, right? But what we're seeing is that ICE officers stormed this workplace. They immediately announced, do you want this announcement in Spanish or Portuguese? If this is a targeted enforcement operation, don't ICE officers know what they're enforcing? Don't they know what languages they're speaking if they're targeting certain people for arrest? And if this is such a targeted enforcement operation, why are U.S. citizens and veterans being interrogated and detained on the spot and having their credentials questioned? I think it's really important above all else to understand what our constitutional rights are.
Did they have a warrant?
They didn't produce a warrant, and subsequently they haven't produced one since. So look, understanding what our rights are, presidential administrations come and go, right? ICE directives come and go. The Constitution is here to stay, and our constitutional rights are here to stay. And so long as you understand that unless an ICE officer produces a warrant with your name clearly and correctly spelled and signed by a judge, you do not need to answer their questions.
See, now that's the part that I want to get into, right? Because that's where we go into the 14th Amendment in our Constitution. Does our law enforcement agencies, can they ask? The same thing with these people, like they don't have a warrant, they don't have a lot of information. So is it going to be the same way they are with black people, the same way they are with brown people? They're just, that's the whole thing of it is, because I know people in my community that I'm from, we know about the jump out boys. We know about when the police used to beat our ass and leave us on the side of the river or leave us in certain neighborhoods, and nobody ever believed us. Nobody ever believed us. So my thing of it is like, how can we believe law enforcement is going to do the right thing and not just abuse the rights of others? Because right now, this is the one thing of it is, and I will tell you like this, the only thing that I disagree with all of this. To be honest, I don't care. You want to come to America? Come to America. Get that diversity, inclusion, and equity. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Get it. You know what I'm saying? Get that American dream, but get it the hard way. Don't come over here and ask for handouts. You know what I'm saying? Because I'll tell you like this, is that going to school and learning about certain other countries was, I'll tell you like this, looking in certain communities like Gary. That's the one thing I remember going through Gary, Indiana. It's not that far from Chicago, but it's really wild because the last time I went, we drove through there on my way to Detroit, and like, damn, it's crazy of what everything is missing. I didn't go to Detroit. I know I went somewhere to Chicago or somewhere, but I went to Gary, and all the warehouses and factories, because I remember, especially in the 90s, Gary was an affluent, especially during the Michael Jackson era, the Jackson 5. Everybody, well, maybe not everybody, but most people know about Gary, Indiana. And then you look at it now, it's like a ghost town. And that's how we're seeing these big ass factories. And like, when is it going to be about the people? When is it going to be about making sure that everybody is okay? I know that people are never going to agree on everything, right? We're never going to agree on abortion. We're never going to agree on prison, the pipeline, but we can all agree on scams. We can all agree on fraud. We can all agree on what's right and what's wrong. We got to stop interpreting things that's wrong and interpreting it into right, because that's where we're getting. When politics and our politicians can do things that are illegal for citizens, but they get away with it because they're an elected official, there's something seriously wrong with our system. There is seriously something wrong, because I'll tell you right now is that, why aren't people doing something? I seen a post about somebody asking, why aren't we protesting? And somebody said, protest for what? I commented, and I said, what do you mean? Do we really honestly need do we need a reason? Because we have reasons every day. That's the one crazy thing is, like, seriously? Because my eyes see the same thing that so many Minneapolis residents, constituents see. I see pictures right now, but most see decay. They see trauma. They see people brutalized and suffering. And we as activists, I see more GoFundMes. I called, that's the one crazy thing of it is, I'll be honest. Anytime that I see anything about one of them talking about oh, this and that. Like, damn, dude, really? Like, this some wild ass shit. It's some wild ass shit. Because it's just like Rochester, Minnesota, a lawsuit comes out, and most niggas knew about him dying, about Cicero dying in Olmsted County Jail. And it's crazy of how people only, because a lawsuit is out, wanted to make a statement. But when niggas was making calls and knew, because niggas worked with the police department and worked inside the jails, they would be able to do something. No, you think that shit went silent. It went quiet. And I expect it to go that way at this point, because I started to see that it's not about change. It's not about making sure my neighborhood, I'm really trying to steer away from community, so that my neighborhood, because that's the whole crazy thing of it is, we have people speaking up for our neighborhoods that don't even live there. I'm gonna say that again, don't even live there, and haven't lived there for years. But say they are part of that community. How? When you go out to the suburbs every fucking night and you lay your head down, and you're only getting mad because the violence and all that shit is starting to creep out to Brooklyn Center, Coon Rapids, Brooklyn Park. Those areas weren't like that when I was growing up. Those were actually considered suburbs, nice areas. Brookdale gone. The Walmart gone. The CVS on the corner gone. Like, I don't get it. Like, when are people finally going to wake up and see that these policies are hurting us? They are allowing people to fuck over law-abiding citizens. As long as you're a criminal, you're good. But you're a law-abiding citizen, they're going to fuck you up. That's literally what they're showing. Politicians, elected officials, because I will tell you like this, even when it comes to Nicole Mitchell in the Senate, you got a motherfucker up there talking about, nigga, do we trust his vote? Bobby Champion? When you literally took money in Minneapolis to close down North High School, and you were giving your friends money. Jeff Hayden, there was a whole ethics committee on this shit. A whole committee. And it trips me out because, first of all, maybe I did. Oh, nope, here it is. Yeah, it's crazy as hell. 2014, 11, almost, well, going on this year to be 11 years. So why? When we literally know this, the crazy thing of it is, man, I will never understand this, right? And I keep on asking this because I seen posts about Keith Ellison and all this shit. So my question is now, do people forget about the past? Because we've had no accountability. We've had no responsibility. So do people celebrate the present and just forget about the past? And act like everything is okay? We're going back to normal? Like, out of sight, out of mind? Because if niggas bring it up, you're the problem? Not that we should deal with it so that we can make our community better, our neighborhoods better. We're going to keep on allowing this bullshit because, first of all, y'all are on the side of, because niggas are telling you that it's right, even though you know, motherfucker, it's wrong, but because you have contracts, because he's put money in your pocket, he's made your life better, you're going to ignore the nigga that's down here that's lower than you, because now you're a house nigga. You're in the house. So now you're going to look at people that are under you that can't get up there, that don't get to the same. Yeah, because there's plenty of people out here with the same stories, but depending on what you see politically is how it gets handled. And then you have people that are in their own parties, that work inside city halls, that fuck over their own people. You know, that's the one thing of it is. We sit here and talk about law enforcement. Fuck them. Fuck the police. Because I will tell you right now, I know mothers who have lost their sons. And police don't do shit. They help cover up a murder. In Wabasha County, this is not the Twin Cities. I'm not talking about the Twin Cities. You have a bogus-ass prosecutor in Wabasha County, and then you go to Plainview, which is in Wabasha County. You got a faggot-ass, I don't even care no more. You got a faggot-ass police chief. And then what's crazy is the prosecutor who's doing all these things that he says that they're right. And then you have people that are under him because they're paying him. They're paying them. Just be quiet. It's okay. We'll make sure that it's all right. But even though people that go to the Capitol are people that are in our community, they know. Do we do anything? No. Because I could talk all day about Marcy's story. I could talk about Pam Lang. I could talk about Zoya Code. I could talk about plenty stories in Red Wing, plenty stories in Rochester, Owatonna, Albert Lee, Faribault. But if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. If it is out of sight, it is out of mind. And we have to get away from that. Because sooner or later, it's going to come to your door if you don't stand up to it. That's the one crazy thing is I look at people, and I really, to be honest, I look at a lot of posts where people are asking for help, and it's like, nigga, you should have known. You should have motherfucking known. And then here's the crazy thing of it is I look at people and talk about, oh, we love you, we love you. Y'all, I can't stand these motherfuckers. FBA, BLM, ADOS. Because here's the crazy thing of it is motherfuckers will talk about P. Diddy, but won't talk about the same nigga that's like P. Diddy in your neighborhood. You uplift it. See, people don't remember the fact that everybody was lifting up a rapist in Uptown. Oh, see, yeah, nobody wants to talk about that. Does anybody remember when see, I just remember the people that Minnesota Crime Watch was putting up there, not the people that were Dante Wright was getting pulled over and they had sexual assault charges. And had sexual assault charges in St. Paul. See, yeah, that's the whole crazy thing, man, is the shit we uplift. Y'all uplift down low niggas. Niggas that like DL niggas. Down low ass niggas. Niggas that fuck with women but are actually men. That's crazy to me. Y'all uplift that. And then when niggas expose it, y'all say, well, that's just their sexuality. We don't care about that. You don't care about a nigga got a mask on and is not comfortable being him. That's not the real him. A nigga puts cocaine up their nose. We gave a city in Minneapolis to a nigga that was getting cocaine snorted off his dick. Terry motherfucking Willis. And there's video, just like with Sharon Cruz. There was a video all over Facebook that a nigga was smoking meth, was smoking the glass dick. And nobody said nothing. Niggas was letting that shit go. Niggas uplift that bullshit. They uplift it. Here's the thing, y'all hate police so much, but then yet don't say nothing to a bitch that killed a nigga when she was the police. Y'all uplift it. And I'm talking about Lisa Clemens. I don't get it. I do not get it. We uplift evil before we lift up good. Because we got niggas that are behind bars that are innocent, that didn't do no crimes. And then there's people like Keith Ellison, Jerry McAfee, who have railroaded our youth, our black and brown youth. In my world, I thought snitches get stitches. But as long as a motherfucker's paying you, you believe in anything. That's what's crazy to me, and I will never understand it. I will never, because you know what? I'll be honest. I'll be 100% honest. You know, I sat around a lot of motherfuckers that were getting money. Didn't matter, from Ben Crump, Al Sharpton. Yeah, I've been around them. And I've all seen people get envelopes. I've seen activists come from other states for Dante Wright's funeral, for his trial, for the trial of Kim Potter. I've seen activists getting envelopes of money, while others who came up here on their own used their own money. Because I remember driving on Christmas Day down to Arkansas. I remember driving down there, driving down to Arkansas, right? And there's a lot of people, because here's the thing of it is, a lot of people don't want to choose between right and wrong. So I've lost a lot of friends that to be honest, I thought we were bigger than that. I thought we were all fighting for the same thing: transparency, equality. Because if you're gonna, here's my thing of it is, if you're gonna call somebody a sex offender, call the niggas that surround your clique, that you hang around sex offenders. I don't understand that. Y'all will sit here and down another nigga. Y'all will hang around alcoholics, pill poppers, and then have to call out somebody because they're not afraid to look in the mirror and stand up to anything you motherfuckers got to say. Because you know what? I know skeletons. We got activists down here that have killed their own motherfucking kids, but niggas got Gilly the King and what he did to his son, supposedly mac and cheese. But niggas don't want to talk about the females over St. Paul that sacrificed their own children to get where they are today. Niggas know. You motherfuckers act like there's not a history. That's the whole crazy part. I don't know how many times I got to be around people that, because y'all uplift these niggas, y'all put them where they are, and then y'all want to complain about it. Why don't you stand up to it? Stand up to it. That's the whole crazy part for me, is stand up to the shit. You know what I'm saying? Stand up to the shit. Niggas, this the whole crazy. Everybody say they gangster. They the biggest thug. I see a bunch of bitches in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. I don't see, here's the crazy thing of it is, and if you ignore it, if you're silent about it, you're a bitch. You're a bitch. You a bitch. You a bitch. Because that's crazy as hell how we uplift niggas that are over here fucking around our neighborhood. Keith Ellison. I don't know how many posts today I see about Philip Vance. Y'all act like there's not an innocent man that is behind bars, and Keith Ellison then helped put him there. I don't get it. And then we promote the bullshit, Camo J. Camo J is part of the problem in Minneapolis, but niggas uplift it. The same thing with Shiloh Temple. Y'all uplift. This is the crazy thing. Motherfuckers can put paperwork in your face and you niggas still don't get it. You still don't get it. This the whole crazy thing to me, man, is that even when it comes to the Jewel Adora being AI, niggas still can't get it because of the simple fact they got a scarf. Jewel had a budget. I got a book from Jewel. You got a scarf. There's a whole article about it, nigga. I don't get that shit. There's a whole article. A whole article. And we want to act like we don't know the problems. No, niggas want to know the problem. They get paid for talking about the problem. And I'm tired. I'm really tired of it. I'm tired. Because where we're at, people, we could be saving lives out here, but people want to get mad and get in their feelings because y'all got skeletons in your closet that you've never been accountable for. That's not my problem. That's not my problem. Because I'm going to tell you like this. I don't give a fuck no more. I don't give a fuck about our relationship, our friendship, whatever the fuck we have. If you're doing evil in our communities, our neighborhood, not communities, my bad. Neighborhoods, I'm calling it out. And I don't give a fuck if I used to call you my brother, because I will tell you like this. As people talk about me and Cortez and how close we were, I'm going to tell you like this. Niggas was all in my ears talking about that nigga's a snake. He going to do you like this. He going to do you like that. I didn't believe him until I had to experience it. I didn't believe others. There was niggas in communities that knew about these niggas. And instead of calling this shit out, all because they got paid, they shut the fuck up and looked the other way. And then now, because now they speak out, but nobody believes them. Nobody believes them. Nobody believes them. That's crazy as hell. That's crazy as hell. I know I'm random, venting like a motherfucker, ranting like today, crazy today. But I want to get into this. They had a media day yesterday about Nicole Mitchell. And I want to get into that a little bit because you got to listen to these words because they do matter. And if people aren't listening to the words, you're not educating yourself so we can get better. You're not knowing better so we can do better because you're stuck in this cycle of evil, of bullshit. Just because you go to church on Sunday asking God to forgive you for the rest of the week, but then yet on Monday doing the same fuck shit you was doing before Sunday, nigga, how you a Christian? I don't get that shit, man. I honestly don't. How you a Christian? Because you sin all week and then on Sundays you asking God for forgiveness, but yet you sinning again. This shit it trips me out.
Well, why don't you say it again? You did it so eloquently.
I can just play Today, Senator Mitchell's trial was supposed to start up in Becker County, and she used her privileges as a Minnesota senator to delay that criminal proceeding. And so we thought it was important for us to bring this motion to expel today, and she just continues to play the process off of itself. Last session, she said that, I needed to wait until my trial before the ethics complaint could be taken up, and now she is using her service in the Senate to delay criminal proceedings. And unfortunately, we saw Senate Democrats again in lockstep vote to keep Senator Mitchell here serving in the Senate, even though she's facing very serious felony charges.
Wouldn't you actually get to a vote if you did this when you held the gavel instead of when they hold the gavel?
For any point of order, both co-presiding presidents have to consult and talk, so it doesn't necessarily change the outcome who has the gavel.
Are either of you at all worried about how spending time on this could take away time from legislation and working on that?
Again, this is something that, as an institution, we got to make sure that we are holding ourselves up based on the rules that we have to the highest standard of conduct. And so Senator Mitchell has that opportunity to recuse herself or to leave the Senate on her own validity, and then we can get back to business. She took up a ton of time last year. You remember when she was first caught, almost a week worth of committee hearings and floor sessions, plus the time that we had on the floor discussing what the appropriate way forward was. So this is all within Senator Mitchell's control, and so we are here just trying to make sure that we're getting justice for not only the victim, but then also for our institution itself.
What's changed since the last session?
In the advance of the election tomorrow, I mean, had you been successful here, the Democratic candidate would have won tomorrow. I mean, is this a power play to keep the Senate tied?
No, I think this is about making sure that the Senate can focus on our business. And that's why Senate Republicans entered into this power sharing agreement, is so we can roll up our sleeves and work together to serve the people of Minnesota. And Senator Mitchell, as you've seen today, continues to distract from that important work. And I think it's also important to say that her constituents aren't being served right now by having her in the Senate. She doesn't serve on any Senate committees, the only senator who doesn't. She also doesn't participate in legislative caucus discussions supposedly. And so her constituents basically have a senator here who can't fully participate. And so we also want to give them the chance to send someone here who can be a full member.
Do you see this hanging over the rest of this 2025 session like it did towards the end of last year?
Our hope was to address it today. Our hope is, we could have removed Senator Mitchell from the Senate. They could have had a special election to have a replacement, and our power sharing agreement would continue. But unfortunately, you saw Senate Democrats decide to defend Senator Mitchell yet again, like they did last session.
But he's asking whether you're going to continue, whether this is going to continue to be an issue, whether you guys are going to try other things, or, I mean, we saw what happened in the last month of last year.
Yeah, and really what you saw today is the opportunity for Democrats to step up and move forward with the institution. The cloud is going to continue to hang over the Minnesota State Senate throughout, as long as Senator Mitchell is here. That could be throughout the session. And so with that question, you saw today she's voting again on her ability to stay here in the Minnesota State Senate. And so this is something that's going to continue over and over again until this is addressed. And she really kicked out, today should have been her court date, but she kicked that out until this summer, which, unfortunately is going to continue that cloud.
Well, we said the ethics committee is pretty much on pause until the summer too, because the ethics committee kept on delaying until the hearing.
But if they had not been able to take this into a procedural vote, the caucuses tend to vote with their leadership. Do you think there would be a vote if you had a clean vote on the immigrants?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the DFL senators that.
Do you think?
But I think an important point to make is a number of Democrat senators have called on Senator Mitchell to resign. Governor Walz has called on Senator Mitchell to resign. Ken Martin, the chair of the state DFL party, has called on her to resign. But when it actually mattered here on the floor today, we saw Senate Democrats vote lockstep in their party to keep Senator Mitchell from facing accountability for her actions. And so we saw that flurry of press releases after the end of session, but now when it mattered, we saw something different.
So to be clear, are you going to make further attempts to unseat her as the session goes on?
Well, again, this is going to be a cloud that's hanging over the Senate, and we'll have to address that where necessary.
You said she tarnishes the Senate. Does having a felon in the White House tarnish that position?
We're not going to go down that path. We're dealing with the Minnesota State Senate right now and what we can control. And so we are looking at that in all the avenues that we can to make sure that justice is served.
So you don't have any thoughts on that?
No.
That's big because for the simple fact that he has no comment on, in the White House, it's okay for the president to have a felony, but it's not okay for regular Americans. That really shows that something, you know what I'm saying? Because you want a person that honestly, I want to play it again because it shows a lot.
We're not going to go down that path. We're dealing with the Minnesota State
Right.
Senate right now.
No, we're not.
Control. And so we are looking at that in all the avenues that we can to make sure that justice is served.
But I bet you voted for a felon.
Well, they're arguing that due process needs to have a full ethics hearing and recommendations by the ethics panel that we have here at the Minnesota State Senate, right? And so by delaying her trial, they're delaying the ethics results. And so that game is continuing to be played out. This is the third or fourth continuance on her trial, so we're not getting any results from the ethics task force. And so what we're going to do is we can take it within our own hands here. We've got the ability to do that, and so we see the Democrats avoiding that again today.
Do you have a process worked out to transition into what will almost certainly be Democratic leadership here in 36 hours?
I state your question again. I'm not sure.
Right now you've got a power sharing agreement, but tomorrow all but certain that a Democrat will likely be elected in one of the most Democratic
You're
districts.
assuming that's going to be a Democrat seat.
Is there a transition process in place to transition from the power sharing situation to the process of Democratic leadership?
So our hope is that the duration of this agreement will last far into the session, because we've got the ability in there to continue to work together. I think Minnesotans have been pleased with the results, with the communications that have been coming out of the Minnesota State Senate, with chairs working together, leaders working together. And so our hope is that this will continue going forward, and we've given no reason for it not to continue.
We got time for one more, guys. He's got to move around.
I was going to say, do you think moving forward there should be a standard that somebody charged with a felony should be expelled just as a blanket policy?
Look, we're going to take this as a one case situation here, work on it from the body. I think this is serious enough that we need to address it immediately. That's what we try to do today.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Both clear Mercury Vale.
Thanks, guys.
We've had now a couple of hours of debate.
on the status of Senator Mitchell. You know, I contend that her matter is not a matter for the Minnesota Senate. We have important work to do for the people of Minnesota. We have to set a budget, and our caucus is very, very committed to that. We entered into a power sharing agreement at the start of this session with a commitment to do the work of the people of Minnesota, and that commitment stands strong across the nation as we look at a new president of the United States, both violating the U.S. Constitution and the rule of law by pardoning criminal, violent J6ers. And we watch in the other body a commitment or an unanswered question about seating a member duly elected. I worry very much about our ability to uphold our oath and this Constitution for the people of Minnesota. This debate today is about fundamental principles: the rule of law, due process, representation, and your ability to have a trial by jurors, by your peers. We're committed to those fundamental principles, those fundamental laws, and that is why today's debate ended the way that it did.
Is Senator Mitchell adequately able to represent her constituents without being on committees and not participating in caucus?
So when the community in Senate District 47 had the opportunity to take action to recall, they chose not to. Instead, she remains their representative, their senator, and she's doing that job.
But do you think she's adequately able to do that job?
I think Senator Mitchell is going to do everything she can to represent the interests of the people of District 47, more importantly, Tom Hauser. They have the right to representation. She is their duly elected senator.
Is she still not attending caucus meetings?
She is not participating in our caucus.
What happens on Wednesday after this election? Give us the roadmap for what's going to happen then.
So, for those of you who have studied our power sharing agreement, there will be an election on the 28th, that's tomorrow. We anticipate that we will win that seat, and if you've spent any time in Senate District 60, you will understand why. It is a group of people deeply committed to winning that election, and they're knocking the heck out of the doors in order to do that. An election certificate will be delivered to us, we expect, very early next week. And we are committed to returning to our majority, but doing it with the peaceful transfer of power like we have embedded in our democracy here and in the nation's capital. What we've experienced today accepted, what we've experienced in these last couple of weeks, is a commitment together to collaborate, to cooperate, and to try and work through our differences. And even though this floor session was difficult, I am committed to and have continued to share my commitment with Leader Johnson that we're going to continue to work together and keep that door and those channels open, because that is the best way that we can represent and get the work done for the people of Minnesota.
Assuming you win, what day would the senator be sworn in?
Depends on when we receive the election certificate, and we expect it next week.
Senator, early next week, late next week?
Early next week.
Senator, can you explain how you worked out that agreement? I know it was behind closed doors, but I would have thought it would have been a tie. I mean, that you and Senator Champion would have wanted to uphold the Friends motion, and Miller and Johnson would want to have not upheld the motion. How'd you break that tie?
We, the contents of that discussion, I think, will remain in that room, but it is clear that we have both
Figures.
Constitution rules, Mason's rules, and custom and usage. And custom and usage tell us that someone who has been accused and is in the middle of a criminal matter has never been expelled from this body without a subcommittee on the Committee on Ethics ruling first. They have not finished that work. And if you look at Mason's, which is the operative piece that we worked on today, there is a standard by which there's a standard we need to meet that we didn't meet. We have not yet met.
Does the secretary have a role?
In the end, the co-presiding officers, in discussion with the leaders and with the secretary, reached a conclusion.
How concerned are you that Republicans will continue to bring this up throughout the session?
Senator Mitchell has been accused and not yet convicted. She is got due process rights, and the people who live in the district she represents are entitled to her representation. Her court case is not a matter for the Senate. What is a matter for the Senate is balancing the budget and getting policy passed that will improve the lives of the people of Minnesota. And I hope to God that my colleagues reach that conclusion with me so we can do that important work.
If this keeps coming up, can you get any work done?
We will figure out how to get the work done for the people of Minnesota. And I will, impress upon my colleagues that we have just now 4 months and a few days to finish the budget, and that's the work that we have to get done for the people of Minnesota.
The Republican leaders just a couple minutes ago pointed out the many DFL party leaders, Governor Ken Martin, that had called on Senator Mitchell to resign. If this wasn't a one-vote difference, would this make any difference? Some may say because this matters for the majority, that's the only reason why you're defending her.
And as I mentioned earlier, there are very fundamental principles, American principles. Innocent until proven guilty, due process under the law, her right to represent the people who elected her, their right to be represented in this body, the right to a trial by a jury. They're embedded in this Constitution. So this is, can be viewed as a partisan fight, but it is not. And as we see other parts of the government flouting the rule of law, flouting the Constitution a week after taking the oath to the Constitution, this body, my colleagues, our caucus, are standing up for those fundamental principles in a way that I wish everyone else would, because, my God, if we abandon the rule of law, what happens to our country? We are fighting for fundamental democracy, fundamental fairness, fundamental justice.
With that said, you really wanted that trial to start today. You wanted it to be done and be over with so you had a solution, correct?
I would love this issue to be behind us, but it's not. But her rights are intact.
Should she have resigned in May?
That is a decision that was up to her to make, and she chose not to.
If Democrats, likely win the majority next week, is that the end to co-chairs and like the co-governing for president?
If you study the resolution that we passed, you will see that we end that temporary resolution with 34 votes. And then we'll have to reorganize. Thank
And when
you.
you reorganize, what will that look like?
We'll elect President Bobby Joe Champion.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I hope so Bobby Joe Champion, who, this the one crazy thing, man, had an ethics complaint in front of Republicans, but yet I don't understand it. And it's like, in my eyes, is Minnesota ever going to be represented like we should? I don't know the answer anymore. I used to believe that we would. I used to think that we already were. And I see that we're not. I thought there was corruption and fraud and, a certain way of life that people lived on the other side of the tracks where I came from. I wanted to be in a side where people looked at each other and, we had done wrongs, but hey, we got past it because we were different people. But I see that if you call people out, it's not always like that. It's not always like that. And sometimes, telling the truth can get you hurt. Telling the truth can get you killed. And as we've seen with Malcolm X, Marcus, there's plenty of stories, and Martin Luther King, J.F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy. I think his name was Bobby. Maybe it was Bobby F. Kennedy. Man, I think his name was RFK, though. There's been a lot of deaths, all for just telling the truth. And we call them whistleblowers. Why? Why do we label something about telling the truth? Doing the right thing, we label motherfuckers like they've done something wrong. I don't understand that. And maybe I never will. I don't obviously get that. It's like, how can we as people see wrong one way, but because of our political party, it's not wrong? I don't get that. No, I honestly don't get that. And both sides of the Republicans and Democrats, they can't throw stones because they live in glass houses. They live in a glass house. Because I will tell you like this, when they want people, individuals, to get on the GOP side over in North Minneapolis, they go to certain people. They don't go to the grassroots conservatives they go to the paid, have no influence Republicans who can't do shit. Because you got that's the one thing of it is, and I don't understand is like they want to play by the rules. You can't. Here's my point: you're not going to win by playing by the rules. You got to fight fire with fire. They break the law every day, so why can't we? Y'all want to call me that I assaulted police, but no spit ever left my mouth. And if it did, it hit the back of two other people next that weren't police officers. Dane McBrien and Cortez Rice. Yeah, I say names around this motherfucker. I say names. These niggas don't scare me. I bleed just like everybody else in America bleeds. I don't get that because we can call out celebrities for the shit that they do, but we can't never look in our own neighborhoods and want to make change there because it's easier to make change with like P. Diddy, R. Kelly. Not saying that, Bill Cosby, because a lot of people could have did shit, but because they were getting paid to look the other way, they didn't. They sat there and be silent and shut the fuck up. All because they're getting paid. All because they're getting paid. Just like in Rochester, Minnesota. Yesterday there was a lawsuit filed. Melvin Bush, Cicero. It was filed. And a lot of people, I shouldn't, no, never mind. I shouldn't say that a lot of people because it wasn't a lot of people. There was a certain individual that asked a lot of questions. And it's crazy as hell when you can go to black leaders who work inside the police departments in the sheriff's office, and you go to pastors and niggas didn't care. But now that it's filed, everybody cares. So it makes me wonder, where was everybody? I will never understand that, man. And I will tell you like this. I remember Cicero because I met Melvin in jail in Olmsted County Adult Detention Center. We're in general population. Alberto was in there. He was a guard, rest in peace. There was a lot. Even TC, he knew Cicero. He knew Melvin Bush. Melvin was a legend. A lot of people didn't even know him as Melvin Bush. They knew the man as Cicero. As Cicero. But yet, I see individuals talking on Facebook, making comments that didn't know him. All because he's got the last name Bush. He had changed. I will say we all came from unfortunate situations. And some of us ended up knowing better and started to do better. And some of us went along that road and kept on falling down. And then we do good and then fall down because we're work in progress. Nobody want to help us. Nobody wants to. Once you do bad, they think you are bad. But here's the thing of it is, if they're paid, they can do all the evils that they want in the world. And I will never understand that. I still to this day will never understand it. So I want to get into this. It's about 3 minutes long, but they talk about Cicero, and I'll be right All because of, you know what I'm saying? Nobody wanted to do nothing, and it hurt me when individuals, like, you work inside the system, but you know these things are happening, and yet you don't do anything. Here's the one thing that blew my mind. There's multiple lawsuits out of Olmsted County Jail. Why don't the community know about it? Why is it that it takes, here's the crazy thing of it is, because I see this every day happen on Facebook, is that because of a person's politics, it's not taken serious, right? So a lot of individuals, because they're Republicans, they think what happened to Melvin, that he deserved it. You don't even know what happened. You know a story that KTTC came out with. They came out with a narrative, a rhetoric. So because we live in times that everything is so political, you want to take it there. You don't want to go by the law and say, you know what, doesn't matter if he had a felony or not, or if he should have been in jail. He should have been taken care of. And it didn't matter if it was an effects of a withdrawal. Why didn't they act like that was a withdrawal? Why didn't he was taken to the hospital? If that's a withdrawal, you don't just leave somebody in a cell with withdrawals off of cocaine, off of whatever drug that I shouldn't even say cocaine, but whatever drug that it may have been. You know, I don't understand that. I don't. And we keep on the same things. You know, people keep on going to Mayo and act like nothing ever fucking happened. Even though a grandma got beat by workers at Mayo, because how can you go into a hospital, and you have issues, but then your children come and then you got a whole nother set of issues because you were beaten by your caretakers, by the nurse, the CPA, PCA, whatever the fuck they want to call them, by the people that work at Mayo Clinic, the doctors. Nobody did nothing. So when is it that we can depend on people? Because it doesn't matter where they come from. You work for a system. And as long as it's not your family member, you're okay. The same thing when it came to Matthew Adamson. This nigga was working in that jail when Melvin died, when Cicero. You know what I'm saying? And they were still covering for him. So how does anybody expect anything from this? The year that Matthew Adamson was arrested. Even though Rochester police covered it up, Olmsted County was helping cover it up. It took the feds. It took a whole nother operation for this nigga Sting to do the same thing over that he was always doing, violating motherfuckers' rights, sexually abusing people, because he couldn't get his kinks, his weird vibes. You know what I'm saying? What you married for, nigga? People should have really looked at Buddy's wife, even though he got a divorce. She probably divorced him because he got caught. It went public. I don't even think the broad lives in Rochester anymore. But it's crazy as hell. I don't get it. In Rochester, Minnesota, and Minnesota, period, we lift up scam artists because our media only goes after one type, a narrative. They don't go after the real deal Holyfield. They go after a narrative. And I don't understand that. You know, I see people share stories all the time about, black kids being misabused, being mistreated. But then when it happens in our own neighborhoods, we don't be giving a fuck because nobody talks about it. What about the little girl in Red Wing that had to stop going to public schools because she was getting discriminated against from adults, and kids were bullying her because of the color of her skin, because she was a black girl? Nobody was there for her, the school board. You know, every time this mother gets up here, I wish I had time because I really want to keep this at 2 hours today. But I wish I really had time. And I'm going to share the link and I shared it last night, is a mother in Red Wing. The way that you go speak to people that are supposed to care and supposed to make a difference, and you get that kind of reaction. How are we ever going to expect any other difference in America if we have leaders that when you go to them and you're asking for help, they don't want to do anything. And then when you make them, that's when they want to do the wrong thing. But see, when you were going to them and asking them to do the right thing, they wouldn't do it. So you have to force them to do the right, and then they end up doing the wrong thing. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like I don't understand it. I don't get it. And why? Why? Why does it have to be like that? Why does it have to be where we act like we don't care about others when we do? When we do love our brothers and sisters. You know, that's the one crazy thing is I don't dislike any of these people because they have a criminal, they're criminals. No. Go be accountable and responsible and change that. So we don't have to keep on, because we can't keep calling it out and then look the other way. I'll be honest, we cannot keep calling it out and looking the other way. That doesn't make any sense. Because how can y'all call out all cops are bad, be out here yelling ACAB, but then don't even call out the neighbors that do wrong in your own communities, in your own neighborhoods? Because it's wild to me. I don't know how many stories of kids that were being sexually abused, and adults had to know. Adults had to know, but it kept on going on for years. And it's in the worst parts of Minneapolis because honestly, nobody cared. And it's wild to me. I will never understand it. It's like, what makes it right? Because it's all in a certain area, but if you go to another area, it's wrong. No, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's where your morals and integrity come in. Because it should be wrong. Not because you went out to Invergrove Heights, or you went out to Chanhassen, or you went out to Minnetonka or Austin, Albert Lee, Jackson. It's different. No, why? Why do we allow people like the Kia boys in Minneapolis? They can run wild over North Minneapolis. They can steal all the cars they want, and we're going to pity pat them. We're going to not give them prison time, which we probably shouldn't. We're not going to be giving them jail time. We have no facilities to hold them. So we're going to give them slaps on the wrist so they can do it all over again. And then when it gets time where they got enough crimes added up, then we're going to penalize them. But we didn't nip it in the bud when we had the chances because we kept on giving them slaps on the wrist instead of making him be accountable for his actions. And I'm telling you like this, America is going to feel this slap on the wrist society and the actions behind it, because I'm going to tell you like this, there is repercussions and consequences to everything. No matter if you make the right decision or if you make the wrong decision, there is always a consequence. Doesn't matter if it's a good one or a bad one, but trust me, there is also some kind of repercussion. Because I'll tell you like this, I deal with this shit. I got to get off here, but you know, I deal with this every day, almost every year. You know, is that because it affects other people, they get mad at me for the actions that I do. Not get mad at the people that's doing it, but they get mad at me. Is that right? I'm standing up to evil, to wrong, the same thing that people stand up for. But yet we allow certain individuals to be demonized, but not, and don't be everybody. And I don't know, maybe I won't never understand it. Maybe I will. But I know I definitely don't get it right now, and probably never will. That's just being truthful. Yeah, because I definitely don't get it anymore of how we can look at people one way, but not in another way. I don't get it. I don't get it. Because if you don't like people that are abusing kids, abusing individuals, that here's the thing of it is, how can you get mad at somebody that's be accountable and already then stood up and faced their consequences, but yet don't get mad at a motherfucker that looks in the mirror and want to blame everybody for their problems, and that you're trying to fix the problem, but they're a part of the problem. That's a hell of a. That's kind of like a what do you call that? Man, I don't even know what you call. Oh, Popeyes. But I don't even know what to call that. What can we call that? I don't know. What you call it? Something you call it hypocrisy, bullshit. But trust me, that goes a lot further in America, in the neighborhoods, in the worst parts of America, than the truth goes, and that's crazy. And I will never understand that, because people love bullshit. They love drama, and whatever. As long as it's not the truth, as long as it's not the truth, it'll be all right. And I don't understand that. Maybe one day I will, maybe one day I won't. I don't think honestly I will ever get it. And maybe I will, maybe I won't. Maybe most Minnesotans will, maybe most Minnesotans won't. Shit, I don't know what y'all will get anymore. Because I feel like once you know better, you're supposed to be doing better. But how does everybody got a degree? Well, you can't hear me. What? What the hell? Damn, can you hear me now? Oh yeah, you can. I don't know what was going on. That was crazy. My bad. Sorry. Must have been some kind of. But I'm going to get up out of here, and I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. So with that being said, here is Whispers of Rebellion by the Urban Conservative. And I will be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well, and y'all have a great day. What the hell? I don't know what is going on. What is the hell? Let's see. What would you? This kid acting up today. That's crazy. That's wild. Nothing, man. Damn, that's crazy. Well, I'm gonna get up out of here. Y'all have a great time, whatever. I'll be back tomorrow. Win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well.